Hi, I'm Dan. Welcome back to the Rock Nerd Radio Show here on YouTube. Today, we're going to reflect on 2023. I'm going to show you a few things that I made during the year that was 2023.
Come geek out with us on the Rock Nerd Radio Show.
Alright, so let's get into this a little bit. What I'm going to be doing is talking a little bit. You'll see some pictures popping up on the screen describing what I'm talking about, and we'll go from there. Now, it was a great year for Transformers. I am a big Transformer collector, if you couldn't tell. And yeah, this year was a great year for Transformers. I got a lot of really cool figures, got some characters who I've never had toys of before, and to my shock and surprise, we got a lot of G2 characters. You can see some directly behind me there. And yeah, this was a crazy year for that, because we never really got that much G2 love in recent years. And while my Autobot shelf looks kind of fine and I have room, my Decepticon shelf is very crammed. I kind of am running out of room on that Decepticon G2 shelf. So I got to figure out where I'm putting some extra characters, some of the ones they made this year. It looks like we might be getting at some point a G2 Minosaur, so maybe the Combiner Wars Minosaur that I have, the G2 one, I'll take off the shelf to make room for now and deal with that later. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. But I will be doing a top 10 Transformers of the year in the coming weeks. You're going to see that probably right around the beginning of the new year. And after that, you know, we kind of switched gears to the G.I.Joe Classified series. I've said many times, I don't really collect a lot of G.I.Joe Classifieds just because of a budget. If I was buying Transformers and Marvel Legends and G.I.Joe Classifieds, I'd have a hard time paying my bills. But G.I. Joe Classifieds this year, I ended up buying some, because as a kid I had most of the Python Patrol, and as I said in a previous video, I've been just buying classified Python Patrol characters. And originally I was going to buy 2 of every character, or, you know, of every trooper guy, but that squad grew very large very quickly. So I think I'm just going to be buying 1 of each one, maybe 2 for something special, but I'm wondering really how many more Python Patrol characters can we get. You did see on the shelf that I do have the Serpent Supreme, Cobra Commander, and the Crimson Twins on that shelf. Those are just characters I like. I will replace that Cobra Commander with a Battle Armor Cobra Commander if they ever do one for classifieds. I feel like they will. We're getting characters like Metalhead and things like that. A Battle Armor Commander has to be coming at some point, right? Come on, Hasbro. Now, another line that I started buying into a lot more this year was Masters of the Universe, specifically the Masterverse, those 7-inch figures. You know, a couple years ago, I started dabbling in Motu again, and I was just going to get the Horde, because I love Horde. The Horde is my favorite faction in any part of He-Man. And what happened this year was, at the beginning of the year, I caught some figures on clearance, and I was like, you know what, these are good deals. And I started buying just Skeletor's crew, because I like monstrous-looking people, monstrous-looking, you know, monster men. They're very cool-looking. So I haven't expanded much beyond the Horde and some of Skeletor's people, but it is a fun line to collect. It's something that I'm having fun messing around with. A friend of mine buys almost every figure that comes out in the Masterverse line. And I'm kind of living vicariously through him. What he buys, I look at and I go, oh, that's really cool. And then certain bad guys I pick up. But I'm not buying everybody. I'm not 100% all in on that one. Now, the biggest news for me this year was that in terms of Marvel Legends, I cut back pretty hard. In fact, I sold 150 Marvel Legends figures. Some of them were fodder figures that I had sitting in fodder bins that I was going to paint and mess around with and you know, pull apart and put together, and I ended up not doing that. I ended up I have all these grandiose customizing ideas in my brain, and I never actually put the ink or the paint on the figures. So I sold a lot of fodder, but I did sell a lot of characters who've been on my shelf for some time. Part of this is because it's getting harder and harder, especially with that $25 price tag, to want to buy every single Marvel Legends figure. I do have a substantial Marvel Legends shelf, as you can kind of see behind me. This continues on for another like 10 feet. And yeah, I just kind of decided to really focus in on certain areas of Marvel. X-Men are my favorite bit of Marvel, so they are definitely getting the most shelf space out of any bit of Marvel. But I still have, you know, some Spider-Man and villains and things like that coming up. I definitely need to redo some shelves. As you can see on the screen now, there's a shelf of some Spider-Man level, street level type characters that don't really have a home, and there are also some X-Men up there just kind of hanging out. I really got to figure out where I'm going to put them. And yeah, a lot of this kind of came out of me trimming down my Avengers display. I thought I was going to really just have a core Avengers shelf that you can see on the screen now, and I have some villains on there too, some Avengers villains I wanted to keep. And what ended up kind of messing with this was the Hasbro Giant Man, the HasLab Giant Man. I backed it. I thought it looked great. I saw it in person at New York Comic Con, and I want that on my shelf. The big question is going to be, where am I going to put it? You know, I could put it in this Avengers display and just have him kneeling down, or I could kind of shift all my X-Men stuff over. As you can see, Galactus is on next to my X-Men stuff. I have a cosmic display there. I could kind of shift Galactus there, or shift over the X-Men stuff, put the Avengers next to the X-Men, maybe change up the way my X-Men display is working. I have a lot that I got to play with. I do have some space that I need to just mess around with because I wanted to make a Secret Wars display. That was what I really wanted to kind of focus on this year, and I have all the characters needed, just kind of sitting on a chair at the moment that I need to put up for a display. But I will have a Secret Wars display. These are for characters who were in the original Secret Wars comic, the 12-issue miniseries. And I have one custom sitting in there. I made a custom titanium many years ago. I need to kind of get a Volcana going. Volcana, I think that would be cool. I think she's the only character I don't have on that shelf. Otherwise, I think every character is represented, almost. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think. So, there we go. Now that I've talked about all that, let's look at some customs and kit bashes that I've made this year. I mentioned that I do have customizing ideas, and while I don't always finish through on what I start, I definitely got through some this year, mostly kit bashes. As I've said before, my wife and I had our first child this year, so it definitely kind of ate in on my time that I would spend making custom figures, but I still wanted to, get some stuff done this year, so I'm going to show off a few of the things that I have. We're going to go to my review space, and you are going to get to take a look at some of the kit bashes and a few customs with paint that I made this year. The first few figures that I'm taking a look at come from the X-Men 97 wave of Marvel Legends, and I will say I didn't modify this Wolverine at all. There's been no changes to it. I just really like this Wolverine. I didn't have a chance to really sit down and review it. I kind of bought him late in the year. I wasn't planning on buying it, but I'm glad I did because I love the new claws on this figure. I normally modify Wolverine's claws with buying the metal claws from Can of Beams, and I didn't have to with this one. So really like this. Love that he's pinless. Yeah, happy to kind of upgrade that Wolverine. So there's no change to that Wolverine. But there is change made to this Bishop. This was the X-Men 97 Bishop. And it's not a perfect fit, but I took the head from the old Bishop, I believe this was the Sauron wave, and put it on, because I didn't really like the head that this figure had. I like the body. I think it's a better body style. I think it's very cool. They have these pockets here that, like Bishop was drawn having, so that's neat. And I also gave him a blaster from the old Bishop figure because this one that he comes with is kind of puny. So I gave him, I think, what I think is a better blaster. So really just a head swap there. Not getting rid of the head or the body for the other one, because I guarantee the Marvel Legends team knows that people are swapping these, and we'll probably get a updated, like, classic Bishop at some point in time. And the only other modification I made to any of these figures was in the Magneto. I just didn't like that he had red hands. I know in the animation he has red hands, but in the comics he has purple hands. I am going for a comic accurate kind of display, so I just gave Magneto purple hands. That's it. Nothing too crazy there. Just wanted to highlight the fact that I did that. Again, it's like a very minor modification, but something worth highlighting. One modification part swap that I made that I already showed off was I made a Rachel Summers Phoenix figure. I'm waiting for a classic Excalibur Rachel Summers in like the Hound costume with the spikes on it. But this was that new Dark Phoenix that came out, which is a great figure. It's a great body, a great sculpt. I put a Walmart gray suited Black Widow head on it. I feel like it made a good Rachel. She looks good, she articulates well, and currently she stands very nicely on my Excalibur shelf. Or with the rest of Excalibur on a shelf. Another kit bash that I did Again, very simple kit bash. Nothing was too extreme so far this year. But I took a Colossus figure. Let's bend him down a little bit. Let's just bring him close to the camera. And I stuck a Colossus, I believe this was the Warlock Wave Colossus head on the Age of Apocalypse Colossus body to kind of give an Outback style Colossus, like Colossus when he was just in the like the trunks and had the bracelets on. And, like, he has boots and stuff. And, of course, it is the Age of Apocalypse aesthetic. But I feel like it looks pretty good, for what I wanted it for. I'm glad we have that. I don't know if we'll ever get a shirtless, just bathing suit wearing Colossus. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But I'm happy to have this. And, again, I have most of the parts to this Build-A-Figure. So if ever I need to put it back together because they're giving us an official one, I could easily, fix that up. Next up would be something that I purchased off eBay. I don't really buy a lot of custom pieces anymore for my Marvel Legends, but I did get a custom set of the folded up wings for this version of Archangel. That Archangel, Deluxe Archangel that came out a few years ago. He had all those different head sculpts, and I had the original one from the Hasbro Marvel Legends line. I still have him on my display, but I wanted this one to really get that Horseman of Death death mask. And he's great. I really like this figure. I've had him on my shelf a long time, but his wings take up a lot of real estate. So I got these folded up wings. They are pointy as hell. Like, that is sharp right there. But I feel like it looks very good for Archangel. I just kind of don't want him to fall. They are a bit fragile, so I don't try to, like, mess around with them too much. Not that I'm going to really move unarticulated wings anyway. Next up was a figure who came out this year, Chamber, and he might not look that different, but I did give him new legs. I had the MCU from the Hawkeye series, Hawkeye figure sitting in my fodder bin, and these are his legs. I don't like the suited chameleon body legs that they put on Chamber, so I gave him the Hawkeye legs, and these legs look like they were meant to be part of Chamber's outfit. I'm still a little annoyed. I had a Chamber figure as a kid that was in like the Generation X red and yellow costume. I kind of wish that's the costume we got for Chamber, but I'll take this one. And, just swapping out the legs made him look a little nicer, stand a little better, in my opinion. Moving along to a bit of a weird head swap. Here, I have the Walgreens exclusive Emma Frost. I've had this body sit in my fodder bin for quite a while. And I slapped on the Super Skrull Wave Invisible Woman head to make what I think looks like a pretty decent Lady Mastermind. It's not 100% accurate, but it looks good enough for my shelf. I don't know if we'll ever get a character like that. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm surprised we ever got Emma Frost in this costume, considering how scantily clad it is. And but it looks pretty well. She stands, she looks good. The healed feet I hate. I normally have an action figure stand under her to help her stand, but yet another part swap that I made this year. Moving along to another part swap in the X-Men realm of things. I took the ninja guy from Shang-Chi, whose name I'm now blanking on, and I stuck just a head with this devil mask that I got on it to make a pretty convincing Ogun, the Wolverine bad guy. So this stands on my shelf, on my Wolverine shelf. I wish he had like hands that could hold a sword, because I feel like he needs to hold a sword, and I can always swap out the hands. They wouldn't have those metal bracers on them, which I might be okay with. So that might be something I kind of fiddle around with a little more in the new year, but just wanted to have that on my shelf. I thought it looked pretty good. Moving along, this is a bit of a weird one. I'm going to put a cover up on the screen to an X-Men book where you see back in the early Hickman days, Apocalypse, Xavier, and Magneto in suits on the cover, and I did that this year. I took that Build-A-Figure Gray Hulk, and I threw some Apocalypse parts on him. I took a white costume, white suited Deadpool, and threw a Magneto head on him, and took a regular suited body and put the Xavier with the Cerebro head on him to kind of recreate that cover. I feel like we didn't get a lot of characters from the House of X, Powers of 10 era of X-Men, and I really wanted to get more of them. So while this isn't 100% accurate, it serves its purpose. It looks pretty cool altogether. My only complaint, this body for Deadpool, it has red hands, and no matter how hard I try, I can't get any other hands to fit on this body. So I've tried to kind of put different hands in for Magneto, and I just can't get anything to look quite right. So there we go. That is that. So it's nice to have those three on my shelf. Moving along to one of the ones I actually put some paint on. I used Wonder Man, and I used an extra Vulcan head to kind of give Wonder Man a head that has some wilder hair. The stock head on this figure is very flat and plain looking. I picture Wonder Man kind of having messy hair, so I had to repaint the hair, the brown hair, black. It is a little shiny. I definitely used some shinier type paint, and the eyes came out a little more intense than I wanted them to. But I have a Wonder Man with a different head. It's not 100% perfect, and I'm sure we'll get a new Wonder Man one day. I wasn't loving the Safari Jacket one that came out this year, if I'm being honest. But I liked that style costume Wonder Man. I just wanted a bit of a different head. So that's how I landed on that. The next one that I actually painted up, put quite a bit of paint on, I made a somewhat comic-inspired Nebula. I took the What If Nebula with the blonde hair, didn't like the hair, gave her comic-inspired blue hair, and then painted her costume blue on the sides and gave her blue boots to kind of match her comic look. I also painted the bottom of the costume in blue. And while I'm not the best customizer, this will serve its purpose until the one day where maybe we'll get a comic-inspired Nebula. I don't know if that actually is going to happen, or if it's just wishful thinking on my part, but I wouldn't mind it happening, to be honest. All right, my last two might be my favorite two kit bashes this year. First, I took a White Widow body. I took one of those blonde heads from the female Shield and Hydra Agent 2-pack. I slapped some web gear on this Black Widow body, and I made what I think is a better looking Sharon Carter. You know, the only other Sharon Carter, we got one way many years ago with an Iron Man 2-pack and female Shield Agent 2-pack. And then we got one on the Black Widow movie buck, which I felt was out of proportion, didn't look as great. So this, I feel, matches Sharon Carter a little bit better to her comic look. I wanted that for my Captain America shelf because I really like the Ed Brubaker run of Captain America, and really wanted to highlight a Sharon Carter that kind of looks like how I thought she should look, other than just being in the Shield Agent kind of body. Now, the last one, I'll admit I've seen this kit bash on the internet, and I saw it on Instagram, and it made me want to do it myself. So I took the classic vintage cardback Sue Storm Invisible Woman and the fully invisible vintage card Invisible Woman, and kit bashed it to make it look like a Invisible Woman who is phasing either into invisibility or out of it. So I have a completely translucent arm. Most of this leg is translucent, while the bottom half of this leg is translucent. Kind of feel like that shows off her powers a little better than like just an invisible shield effect. Which isn't always like my favorite thing, especially I feel like that one falls out of her hands quite a bit. So I wanted to highlight that. All right, there we go. So here is everybody kind of lined up, all my kit bashes and customs this year. I had fun doing it. These figures probably won't be making the top 10 of the year for my Marvel Legends, especially because if I'm modifying things, I feel like that automatically kind of disqualifies them. But also a lot weren't actually released this year. A few were, but not all of them. So you'll have to tune into that video to get a full look at my top 10 when it happens. But until next time, hey, I've been Dan. These have been all my customs and kit bashes this year. And I want to thank you for tuning in. I will see you around, and have a good one.
Come geek out with us on the Rock Nerd Radio Show.